It was pretty obvious early on that music was going to be a big part of my life, and I never could have imagined just how big. Star Wars, Chariots of Fire, and E.T. were all a big part of my early music vocabulary, and I learned to play them all by ear on our family piano, and a few on trombone, and yes, I notoriously tried to contact E.T. on our very prominent front yard, much to my neighbors' amusement. And then in 1983, an album came out called Michael W. Smith Project. I had never heard anything like this. It was full of synthesizers, which caught my attention right away, but more importantly, it was full of melodies, really, really catchy songs, and those songs became a big part of my early formative years as a musician. Then in 1984, the follow-up came around with more synthesizers and more great melodies. And it showed us that jumping through Argyle just might be an Olympic sport. And then in 1985, back when we had to rent VCRs and videotapes for our entertainment, I saw a video that forever changed my life. It was my musical hero running around with extreme amounts of energy, playing all these synthesizers and again, with amazing songs in this live concert video. And back then, it's not like you just went and bought a video and took it home. You had to rent them. And so Michael, I figure that because I didn't buy that video, we rented it and I made a dubbed copy that I could watch every day for several years, I probably owe you about $800 with inflation factored in for the back due royalties and rental income. So my apologies. Anyway, that video was a big deal for me. I watched it constantly, and I think I annoyed my family a little bit, as much as they love you, because they heard it enough, and I couldn't get enough of it. None of us could have imagined how crucial those years were for me. I also devoured CCM magazine and Keyboard magazine every month from cover to cover. And I learned from CCM magazine that if I wanted to eventually work with people like Michael or Amy Grant, I would have to move to Nashville from Allentown, Pennsylvania. So in 8th grade, I informed my family that I was going to move to Nashville someday. And their response was, okay, but you might want to have a backup plan because, planning to work with people like that, you might as well plan to win the lottery. Your chances are probably about the same. And I always said, I don't have a backup plan. That's what I'm going to do. So just a few years later, after high school, I bought a plane ticket and decided to move to Nashville. Even though I didn't know a soul, it was a leap of faith, and I believed I was supposed to be there. 6 months after that move, after paying my dues by driving a truck around the country for a group called DC Talk, I got the call that would change my life. I was being offered a job by my musical hero, and in that moment, I was proven right. Sometimes God does grant big, audacious, crazy dreams. Little could I have known that I wasn't just embarking on a career, but an adventure. I got to see the world, and at this point, it's easier to name places we haven't been. And while that kind of travel does have its upsides, there are 22 hours in the day that people don't get to see. It's not all glitz and glamour. It can be exhausting and grueling, and there are some heavy prices to be paid for doing what we love to do. But there are also many rewards, like forming friendships that will last a lifetime. Getting to experience the things that I have with the people I have is nothing short of a gift. We get to touch the world and encourage people with a message that the world desperately needs to hear. And we get to have insane amounts of fun doing that. And that all comes from the top. I've always said that I wouldn't have worked for Michael for all these years if he weren't who he appears to be. Michael, you've always led by example. You've shown me what it looks like to love my wife, love my family, and to pursue the heart of God. You've also loved my family really well and made them feel like your own. So it's safe to say I wouldn't be who I am today if it weren't for who you are. and to say thank you feels wholly inadequate. So that brings me to the present. I've been feeling a stirring for some time that God was preparing me for a new chapter in my life. I wasn't sure what that would look like until this past year, and then all of a sudden I started seeing some really specific signs that were pretty hard to ignore. But I realized that in order to pursue this new dream, it was going to involve another leap of faith. We are both big fans of Indiana Jones, and there's a pivotal scene in The Last Crusade where Indy's standing on a cliff and he has to literally take a leap of faith. But what I love about this scene is when the camera pans, you see that the path was laid out for Indy the whole time. I've always felt like that scene perfectly captures where I've been twice in my life now. The first was at 22 years old when I moved to Nashville and I didn't know a soul. 6 months later, I was working for the guy I always wanted to work with. So now, standing on a ledge once again, I believe it's time to take a leap. And while that can be terrifying at times, I also have learned that God doesn't call us where He doesn't equip us. Michael, God has used you in my life in so many ways, and I believe that if I steward the gifts that God's given me the way that you've stewarded the gifts He's given you, then I can't wait to see what's ahead, because I know it's going to be amazing. So, I started this journey of 1,000,000 miles, if not more, 40 years ago this year with the release of your first record, and I've gotten to spend the last 27 of those by your side. And I couldn't be more grateful for that. So now I step back into the role of just being a fan, and I will always be your biggest fan. I'm always going to cheer you on, and I'm always going to believe in you. And I cannot wait to see the impact of our journey together when we get to the other side. One other thing. I should probably apologize for 27 years of making you feel freezing cold on your own bus, for ordering the flaming lobster tray that time in Barcelona, and for probably being the most expensive band member you've ever had to feed. So, by my calculations, I probably owe you 127 chef specials at Bricks in Napa Valley, and at least 327 boxes of granola, and 417 gallons of whole milk. My bad. In all seriousness, Michael, you've been a friend for a lifetime, and I know that's not going to change. I'm grateful for you. I can't wait to see what's ahead for both of us. And as Wyatt Earp famously said to Doc Holliday at the end of Tombstone, thanks for always being there, Doc. I love you, brother.
W. Smith, the Lord is using you in many ways that you do not understand on this overseas trip, so I want you to blow the shofar tonight when you feel it in the key of B flat, and just to let the minstrel just flow through you in ways of the Lord. Amen.
But we'll keep you close, as always. It won't even seem you've gone, 'cause our hearts, in big and small ways, keep the light that keeps us strong. You go in the Father's hands. We know that a lifetime's not too long to live as friends. No, a lifetime's not too long to live as friends.